podcast to review how to do a scatter plot, do two variable stats, a linear regression, and put the least squares regression line on a scatter plot using your TI84 calculator. What you see before you is a set of two variable of bivariate data. This is from the AP Stats book. This number represents each year, over a number of years, the number of boat registrations in a place in Florida, and this is the number of reported manatees killed by boats in each of those years. So what I'm going to do is put each of these pieces of data in list L4 and each one of these in L5. Once the data is in the calculator, the first thing I want to do is set up a stat plot. So I'm going to go second and the y equals button. My first stat plot, notice they're all off. If yours aren't off, you should hit 4, enter, and then come back to stat plot. I'm going to just enter the first one, and I'm going to turn it on. And when I down arrow, the first thing I come to is the scatter plot, and I'm going to hit enter. And if I hit down arrow again, I have to put in the list where my x's are, and that is L4. And L5 is where my y's are, and I'm going to make my points dots. Now with this new upgraded software, I have to quit out of here before I can hit zoom 9. And there is my scatter plot. Now if you have stray lines through, you probably have leftover lines in here, or maybe you have a second stat plot on that you don't want to have on. So back to graph, there are my points. Now this set of data, I'm looking to put a line through. That's going to be my model. And I do that doing a linear regression. I calculate a least squares regression line. And to do that, I'm going to hit the stat button. I'm going to right arrow over to calculate, and I'm going to hit number 8. Now notice there's the 4 here. Those of you that have in Algebra 2 use this linear regression, but we use number 8 for statistical linear regression because this is consistent with the formulas that you're going to see for the regression lines. So once I've hit stat, right arrow 8, I get linear regression here. I am going to say where my x's are. That's L4, second 4. My y's are L5. And now I want to do this regression line. It'll show me the data, but I also want to put the equation for the line in y1 so I can look at that line on top of the points. So to do that, I go to the vars button. I right arrow over to yvars. I'm going to go in the functions, and there's my y1. And when I hit enter now, I'm going to get all the information, and this equation is right in the form of the regression line. I have correlation, I have coefficient of determination, I have the y-intercept and the slope for this line. You want to be able to interpret the y-intercept and the slope in context of the problem. We'll get to that in a second. Now if I want to look at this, I've already hit zoom 9, so if I just hit graph, there's the regression line, and you can see it's a pretty strong, moderately strong, linear, positive relationship between the number of boat registrations and the numbers of manatees killed by boats. Now in your book, you'll read that the formula for a regression line is right here and can be found using these numbers. So if I have a set of statistics on my x's and y's, I can actually do that regression line by hand. So how would I get that? Calculator. I'm going to clear this out. Again, I'm going back to stat. I'm right arrowing. And now I want to do two variable stats, which is number 2. And my x's are still in L4, and my y's are in L5. And when I hit enter, I get a long list here. I get the x bar, which would be one of my points, the x coordinate of one of my points. I get the standard deviation for x. I get the standard deviation for y and the y bar. So x bar, y bar is going to be 1 point. And I'm going to use these two numbers along with the correlation, which I got from doing the linear regression, to actually fill in. I can solve for b and then use the x bar, and y bar to solve for a. All right, that's two variable stats, scatter plots, and least squares regression line.